JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. October 4th, 3:20 on this fine Friday. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at, go from there, but take a look at the S&P off the morning lows, up about 0.6% on the heels of that huge jobs report. Just a monster. I called it a doozy. Just impressive 50,000 jobs added, 147,000 estimates. There were also upward revisions to the previous 2 months. Uh, who knows how it all looks like. Talked about this morning, right? We had that landmark benchmark revision number, 880,000 jobs revised to the downside back in August for the past year. So, I mean, the data is never 100%. It's like the same with GDP data, which is always backward looking, right? GDP data is the last 3 months of financial for the U.S. economy. That's the last 3 months of the U.S. economy's uh, it's how it's done. So it's a backward looking number, and they always come out with the first number, then the second revision, the third revision, and even after that, it's never 100%. So people always like to poke holes in the data, and yeah, I mean, rightfully so. They always revise these numbers, but either way, it's just part of a guideline, part of all the different metrics that come into play. So what it has done is remove the possibility, or at least the probability, that the market's pricing in for a 0.5% rate cut at the November Fed meeting, and now it's 99% or so probability of a 0.25% rate hike. To me, I think that's good news. That's welcome news. The longer this goes on for the rate cut cycle, the more opportunity or ability they have to press buttons. If the economy really starts to slow down, they can do another jumbo cut. If things get a little crazy, they can just either stay the course, right? So I think that's a good thing. So it kind of forces the Fed's hands going into November. Either way, I talked about it this morning as well, and I had on to watch this. I'm always wary of these pulls, especially on these big gaps to the upside. Sure enough, that's what happened today, all the way up to near 574 in a SPY, and then within a matter of 45 minutes, we were at 573.24, and then we were all the way down at 568 again, which is where we were on, I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday or Monday's lows. I think it was Monday's lows, right? Monday was 588, Tuesday 566, and then Wednesday and Thursday were 565. Found some support, bounced around a little bit, and then pretty much since about 2 o'clock, we've started to melt back to levels we saw at the early morning. So, I mean, take everything with a grain of salt, considering where the market's been and all the different things going on. We have geopolitical concerns, right? The port fiasco is somewhat out of the way, at least till January 15th. Funny, it seemed like it was just yesterday or the day before, people were tweeting about all the impacts of what retailers are going to get hit. Furniture stores are going to get this huge impact, and now there's no talk about that anymore, right? So we'll have to see how it goes into January. I'm sure some will get settled, and they'll go from there, and that'll be last of the port strike fiasco, the next possible headwind for stocks. All right, so anyway, I talked about probably blue skies next week. We have, I think, CPI and PPI data next week. We have the Fed minutes on Wednesday, and then earnings season on Friday. So very busy week. And then who knows what happens this weekend. Hopefully nothing crazy. There's no back and forth with Israel and Iran. Things don't get escalated, and markets can go on their merry way to the upside. All right. So that's individual overall markets, individual names. Take a look at AMD is at highs right now, 170.63. I thought 170 next week. I didn't think it would hit it today. It hit 167 yesterday and faded right after the open. And then today it was gapping 164, struggled to break out, pull back a little bit. Did it hit 165? Actually, it hit 168 in the morning, 9:50, then all the way down to 165, then it bounced. And then it was like round two, broke all the way to 169, and now it's like round three, we're over 170. So I use the move to lock more of my calls in. Never know what's going to happen over the weekend, right? So I don't want to be in a spot where, especially because they're weekly strikes that expire next Friday, that there's some kind of craziness or maybe some news, who knows, and I lose the profits on that. So now I'm riding free with nice profits. I'll hold the rest into next week, and who knows, if it gets to 175, the call's going to be up substantially. It depends on what day it hits, right? So if AMD hits 175 Monday or Tuesday, the call's going to look really good. If it waits till Wednesday and then Thursday's the event, the premiums aren't going to be as high, but it still should be a nice trade. I think you start looking at the chart. I mean, the upper Bollinger Band's 172 and change, so that might be a struggle maybe on Monday, but a fun one so far. So really like AMD for upside into next week. has already paid nice. I'll continue to hold those. What else to say here about Wynn? I almost closed the last of my 105 weeklies yesterday afternoon. Again, we had a possible binary event with the jobs report. Thankfully, I didn't. And then this morning, it opened at 104, and then it was chopping around, and it's down to 103.50. The market's starting to fade, but then Wynn just it kind of found some support in a bid, and it just kept melting to the upside, melting. And then it was at 105.50 or so for a bit, and then boom, it just exploded over 106. uh, Went and closed the last of my calls for over 400%, just because you don't know. Wind's volatile. So even right now, was at 105.60, and then 7 minutes later, it's down at 105.11. And when you're dealing with weekly options that expire in 20 minutes or an hour, or a couple hours, that's a substantial move in the premiums of the calls. So not only that, I still have the October 18th 115s, which are up over 400% at times today. I'll just continue to hold those. Big spots, it's broken already. So I talked about yesterday and today the 109 and change handle, which it hit back in April. That's well, actually April and mid-February. If it breaks through the 109, I think 115 is a kind of foregone conclusion, and a lot's going to depend on what happens over the weekend with China, right? So I mean, number one, there's no crazy geopolitical stuff going on, and number two, hopefully the Asia markets and China could pick up right where they left off last Tuesday and just rally, and 5% or so would be nice. But it's certainly either going to be up 5% or more, down 5% or more. Just my humble opinion. So hopefully it's the former, and a win just has some continuation to next week. I was going to look for more strikes. I'll just sit on my hands for now. No reason to go nuts on it. And then just a longer term chart, you start looking at the support resistance level. These are just levels, right? So I mean, to me, that's what I look at when I look at charts. There's a couple things I look at. One of the most I guess for me, the most important thing is where people bought and where they sold, right? That's support resistance, whether it be long term uh, sell orders, spots where people say, wow, this is where we're going to buy. So, uh, yeah. So that's why I look at those trend lines. Those are like one of the most important. That 50-day moving average, 200-day moving average, which is kind of like trend based. I'll do chart rant one day to clear up. All right. Next is Roku. So I've been talking about it all week, and I still haven't had a chance to pull the trigger. Looked like it was going to run today, and you start looking at the chop it's been in since the middle of the month. And I talked about this morning as well. There's been 8 analysts op-ins since the start of September with either price target upgrades or rating upgrades or both. And the fact that it's still chopping around here since that the first big move on option expiration day in September, I just kind of boggles my mind. But I'm not gonna try and waste energy trying to time it. Possibly what normally will happen is if I don't add calls today, it's going to rally on Monday, which it possibly could do, but I'm kind of content with that. But I'll continue to look for opportunities. I think it heads over 80. And then you have Netflix earnings in 2 weeks. So maybe I'll get some calls to encompass possibly some premium build to that event, but it hasn't really moved too much with Netflix. But the thing is with Netflix now, it's almost like it's similar to what Amazon's doing with Freevee. Netflix like an ad business, right? So I don't know who else has now. I've had Netflix since 15 years. I don't even know how long my membership is, as long as they've done discs and all that stuff. But my wife said they were watching Netflix the other day and they get a message on the TV and it downgraded us to the ad thing, but it was almost like they upgraded us. And they made it sound like an upgrade. I'm like, I don't want the ads. But I think they make more money on a lower membership price with the ads. So anyway, food for thought. But to me, that just shows you how lucrative the ad side of the business is. And you see some of these other names. I mean, if you have Peacock, you have to sit through the ads and all that. It's just almost like they took you to this pay for content with no ads, and now they're starting to take that away from you. I mean, Amazon started doing with Amazon Prime. You're able to watch their Prime movies, no ads, and then all of a sudden you get the message and email. Well, we're starting to put ads on our Amazon Prime movies. And then eventually it's, then they'll either have you pay for the ads to be removed or it's on everything. And then you just accept it. Everybody gets used to it. It's not a big deal. People don't cancel because I don't know, rants for other days. But to me, I always look for reasons that to be bullish on Roku. And there's a lot of reasons in my opinion, but that's just another one. And I talk about the Trade Desk and seeing how well it's doing. And it's in other businesses outside the TV streaming as well and content delivery. So really like Roku. I can go on rants for a while. One of these days, it's going to break out and get back in the 80s, 90s, and 100s. All right. That's that. Clear Secure is going today. Clear's had huge November call volume today. And when I talk about call volume, $20 November strikes that are $10 at the ask, no spread. So I don't know if that's someone, I have no idea. I don't know if it looks like they're at the ask, so I don't think they're sold to open. Uh, I don't know the covered calls. So but that wouldn't make sense, right? Anyway, my head's all in a spin here. But I was looking for some possible calls into November, but I'm probably just going to sit on my hands until next week. It's been a little iffy the last three sessions. Finally, finding some support here. I don't know if it's just a little bounce before the next leg down to $30. So I'll just kind of sit on my hands on that one as I continue to look for opportunities to play that one for upside. The bull case is still not over, in my opinion, 34 than 36, but I'll continue to be patient there. Not much here to add on turn. It's been trading at the 50-day moving average for the last 4 days. So it doesn't make sense to try and do anything here just yet. But at some point, I'll add some more strikes for sure. Same with Corbus. And Corbus looked like it was going to reverse yesterday, closed solidly in the green, and now it's giving it all back again today. It's under 20, broke under 18 again for the second day in a row. It's sitting here at $19. Again, similar story. Nothing's changed. If you saw that little FinTwit slide I posted and put in a chat room, it's around weight loss, right? It's showing that's the first time in modern era that the U.S. has shown a decrease in obesity rates, and this data from 2023. And so, who knows where they get the data from? Is it um, how skewed is the data based on what happened with COVID, right? I mean, the mortality rate for people who are obese was very high. So a lot of folks who died because of COVID or, just in general, probably overweight or had some other ailments because of their overweight. And overweight was kind of was the gateway for it, right? So who knows if that is some of it. And I mean, maybe, of course, GLP-1 drugs, but I think they're still not 100% mainstream yet. So uh, anyway, to me, it just shows that, obviously the GLP-1, even if that's not accurate data, that's going to be a trend at some point. And then I think you'll be able to make a bar chart for cardiovascular, for diabetes, for sleep apnea, and then eventually addiction. And all those charts will be trending into the downside. That's what I would think is going to happen. And again, it just shows the huge addressable market. I don't think it's going away. Anyway, so that brings in Corbus. And Corbus, they have the CB1 drug. Who knows if that ever is gonna work out for them, but they have the other side of it, and they're at a fireside chat, I think, that next week. So hopefully that puts a spark in shares. So that's Corbus. Redfin, similar action to yesterday. It's 230 to start to go. Almost went red green yesterday. It's only down 14 cents today. Now after the bounce, hopefully this is it and it can get going. Don't want to see it test that 10 handle. Came close again today. And then last but not least is Baidu. And Baidu had some crazy option action too. Lots of call volume, similar to what happened on Thursday. Wednesday it sold off, right? I think it was down to 108, and then the next day it was at 116, and then back down to 110. And so it's been choppy. And if Asia markets rally overnight on Sunday, Baidu's going to be back at 117 plus, and maybe it's another week of rallies for Baidu. So I'll probably just sit on my hands for now, just because, again, similar, it's like a binary event. I'm not going to sit here hoping for an upside day in China markets. It's just not a great way to trade without any kind of conviction. And there was that thread this morning where one of the Asia reporters was reporting about China and how they're trying to really instill this confidence around the economy and the boom over this golden week holiday. How much business and housing and all that stuff has increased just from the stimulus over the last week or two. Maybe that follows through on Sunday night, hopefully, but I'm not going to chance it. But certainly a name I'll continue to watch, because if you start looking at what the possibilities with Baidu in regards to the robo-taxi and the AI and all those other levers that they can pull outside their core business, I think it still has plenty of room to go. Speaking of robo-taxi, and thanks Forever Young for pointing out that robo-taxi day is Tesla on October 10th. If you don't know, folks, as well, October 10th is the launch of the Chicken Big Mac, right? I don't know if I'm going to try it, but interesting that they're both being launched on the same, or Robotaxi Day and the Chicken Big Mac are on the same day. Anyway, so should be interesting stuff. I don't know if that's the next leg for McDonald's, but I'm sure people will probably be more apt, especially if you see what Chick-fil-A does, and Chick-fil-A is a crazy business. If McDonald's is able to even just get some of those folks who maybe don't want to have burgers or processed burger, whatever you want to call it, into the chicken side of things, maybe they're going to get some business, and especially if they start at a nice price point. Anyway, Rants for other days. Let's have a great weekend. 25 minutes to the close. Hopefully, another great week next week. Have a nice weekend. Rock and roll.